It was supposed to be a simple fishing trip, just a night out on the water to relax and maybe catch a few fish. But what happened that night on the musky waters of the remote lake will haunt me forever. This is my story, a tale of terror that still sends shivers down my spine every time I think about it. Now, fishing for ghosts wasn't in the plan, but here we are. Cast your likes and net that subscribe button for more hair-raising tales. But before we begin, sit comfortably, dim the lights, turn the volume up, and listen to what the world has to say. Now, let's begin. It was late September, and the chill in the air hinted at the coming winter. My friends, Mark and Jake and I, decided to take one last fishing trip before the cold set in. We chose Lake Shadow, a secluded spot surrounded by dense forest, known for its excellent fishing, but also whispered about for its eerie atmosphere. We laughed off the local legends, thinking them nothing more than campfire tales. We arrived at the lake just as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the water. The air was crisp, and the sky was clear, promising a perfect night for fishing. We loaded our gear onto a small boat, fired up the motor, and headed out for our favorite spot, a little cove known for its big catches. The first few hours were uneventful. We cracked open a few beers, told stories, and waited for the fish to bite. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over the water. But we paid it no mind. As the night wore on, a thick fog began to roll in, enveloping us in a shroud of mist. It made it difficult to see the shoreline, but we were experienced fishermen and didn't let it bother us. Around midnight, the atmosphere changed. The temperature dropped suddenly, and an uneasy feeling settled over us. The once calm lake became eerily still, and an oppressive silence fell. Even the usual sounds of nature seemed to vanish, replaced by a heavy, suffocating quiet. The ordeal started with a whisper, barely audible over the lapping of the water against the boat. At first, I thought it was just the wind playing tricks on us, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to come from all around us, echoing of the water in the trees. Mark and Jake heard it too. We exchanged nervous glances, trying to laugh it off, but the tension was palpable. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move in the fog. A dark shape, barely visible, gliding silently across the water. I pointed it out to the others, and we watched in stunned silence as the shadowy figure moved closer. It was a woman, or at least it appeared to be. Her long dark hair floated around her pale face, and her eyes were empty, hollow voids that seemed to pierce right through us. We were frozen, unable to look away as she drew nearer. Her lips moved, forming words we couldn't hear, but the whispers around us grew louder, more frantic. Suddenly, the boat rocked violently, nearly throwing us in the water. The woman was gone, but the terror she brought remained. Panic set in. We tried to start the motor, but it sputtered and died, leaving us stranded in the middle of the foggy lake. The whispers became screams, and the water around us churned as if something massive was moving beneath its surface. Desperation took over. We grabbed the oars and started to paddle frantically, trying to reach the shore. But no matter how hard we rowed, it felt like we were going nowhere. The fog was disorienting, and the shoreline seemed to shift and change, eluding us. That's when we saw them, more figures emerging from the fog, their pale faces twisted in anguish. Men, women, children, all of them silent, but for the whispers that now filled our minds. They reached out with ghostly hands, trying to pull us into the water. Mark was the first to crack. He dropped his oar and started to scream, swatting at the apparitions as if they were real. Jake and I tried to calm him down, but it was no use. The terror was too much. In our struggle, the boat tipped, and we were thrown into the icy water. The cold shock of it took my breath away, and I flailed, trying to find the surface. When I did, I saw the others struggling as well, their faces pale with fear. The ghosts were all around us, the cold hands pulling us down. I could feel myself slipping, the strength draining from my limbs. It felt like we were going to drown, dragged to the depths by these restless spirits. And just when I thought it was over, I heard a voice cutting through the chaos. It was deep, commanding voice, shouting words I couldn't understand. The ghosts recoiled, their grasps loosening. I turned, only to see an old man standing on the shore, holding a lantern that seemed to push back the fog. With renewed strength, we swam towards the light, each stroke a battle against the icy creep of the lake. Somehow, we made it to shore, collapsing in a heap at the old man's feet. He didn't say a word, just looked at us with knowing eyes and nodded. We never spoke about what happened that night, not to each other, not to anyone. We left Lake Shadow and never went back. The old man disappeared as mysteriously as he had appeared, and we were left with more questions than answers. To this day, I don't know what we encountered on that lake, but I do know this. The legends were true. Lake Shadow is a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin, and those who venture there at night do so at their own peril. So if you ever find yourself near Lake Shadow, heed my warning. Stay away from the water after dark. And if you hear whispers in the wind, run, because some things are better left unseen, and some places are better left unexplored. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, you can always reach me on real@gameacademics.vip. Thank you everybody, and good night.